from San Jose, California, and brought to you by Think Tank Learning. Welcome to Meet the Experts. This is a forum in which we pick the brains of experts and professionals from various industries. We give students inspiration by showing them the academic journeys that they can imitate as they prepare to become experts themselves.
I'm your host, David Schnewen. Today we are going to talk about video game design. Progress in computer science has taken the entertainment and educational substance of video games to a whole new level. Virtual reality has tremendous potential to send people to places or to provide new experiences without the need for travel. It is also revolutionizing how people learn, both in the classroom and the workplace. Our special guest today is at the forefront of video game design. He is Michael Zyda. Michael Zyda is the founding director of the USC GamePipe Laboratory and is professor of engineering practice at USC's Department of Computer Science. At USC, he founded 2 degree programs, the Bachelor's in Science in Computer Science with an emphasis in games, and then the Master's in Computer Science with an emphasis in game development. He also founded the year-long Advanced Games course. In 5 short years, he took the video game design program at USC from no program to the #1 program in the world. Professor Zyda's research interests include computer graphics, large-scale network 3D virtual environments, modeling human and organizational behavior, entertainment and defense collaboration, serious games, and last but not least, entertainment games. Professor Zyda, welcome to Meet the Experts.
Thank you, David, for the invite today.
So to start off, could you give us an idea of what the difference is between serious video games and entertainment video games?
Okay, well, everyone knows the entertainment games. Entertainment is you play the game and it makes it fun for you and you have a great time and there's no apparent purpose. Serious games are games that are built for a purpose. For example, one of the games that pretty much founded the serious games field, the America's Army game, I directed the development of that game for 4.5 years. The purpose of that game was to serve as a recruiting vehicle for potential candidates to join the U.S. Army. And so the serious game realm, one of the most important things is the game has to be fun. It still has to be fun. It has to be like an entertainment game, but down below we want to know about your ability to crawl under barbed wire in the game and, do the marksman course and go off and do other things that the Army may like about you, all right? But there also might be a serious purpose, which is a healthy eating game or a physical fitness game, things that try and influence your life's behaviors. And the main thing that has to be there is those games absolutely still have to be fun first, and that underlying serious purpose is down there.
Okay. So what would you say are current challenges and future frontiers in the field of game design?
Well, I think the biggest challenge we have now is, this is sort of the year when all of the prototype virtual reality hardware comes out, and people have to figure out how do we build games and entertainment experiences in and around VR. And a lot of that's getting dropped into the game realm, because in the game realm, we build real-time 3D worlds, we interact with controllers, we have screens in front of us. Why can't we just pop that same stuff into head-mounted displays and away we go? Well, it doesn't work that way. You have to worry about motion sickness. You've got to worry about tracking. You've got to worry about locomotion. How do you do other things in the world such that it's meaningful for you to be in the virtual environment? So a lot of what's on the leading edge right now is people trying to figure out how do we build games, entertainment experiences in and around VR.
Mm. Okay, well, a large portion of our listeners are students who are very interested in video games. And so one question that they're wanting to hear from you is, what characteristics do you find in students who are successful in your video game programs?
Okay, the main characteristic is the students who apply to the Bachelor's and Master's in Computer Science Specializing Games program at USC, they have to be here. They have the passion to build games. They want to come to the #1 school. They want to do the best. And the other characteristic is, if I ask them the question, what's your favorite game, they can answer in 2 seconds or less. Because if it takes them longer than that, they don't have the passion, maybe. And that's just my initial thought. But I don't have to tell my students how to do homework. or when to do homework, or what to do for homework, because they are self-directed. Many of our classes in the game realm are build us a game, tell us what game you want to build, put together a team, put together a plan, put together leads for the entire team, and away you go. If I had to tell them who is the lead, if I had to tell them about their game design, if I had to tell them that's not good enough game design, other than small tweaks that would maybe perhaps improve the experience, then we have failed in our recruiting. But honestly, we have this wonderful dean, senior vice dean, Louise Yates, who gets me the best students ever. In fact, at this point in time, our undergraduate enrollments into the Viterbi School of Engineering, 10% of the students into the Viterbi School of Engineering as freshmen are into the computer science games program. She gets me the best people. She's wonderful.
Sounds great. And so it seems like there's a strong component of teamwork that's required in the students in your program.
The program's all about teamwork. In fact, the game industry is all about teamwork. You know, you have to have engineers, you have to have artists, you have to have designers, you have to have musicians. You've got to have all of these different roles to build a game. You know, every once in a while I will get a student who will come in and say, I want to build a game by myself. And I'm saying, you have no future in the game industry. Please go do something easier like chemical engineering or electrical engineering. That's what I tell them. Because cross-disciplinary collaboration, honestly, is difficult. Okay, because the engineers want to lead, the artists want to lead, the designers want to lead, and you have to figure out who has the talent to lead. That usually comes out through the submission process, which is a team comes in and says, we're going to build this game in the year-long advanced games class. I am the lead. Here's the lead designer. Here's the lead artist. Here's the lead engineer. Here is the lead producer. And we have all been roommates for 3 years. So honestly, in the game development, cross-disciplinary collaboration business, a good way to understand, yes, that team's going to be great, is honestly if they've been roommates or neighbors or close friends. Because you're going to be cheek by jowl with these people over a 2-year period to ship a game.
Yeah, and so how much value is there in a video game design student also taking art classes and humanities classes and things like that?
Well, I think humanities and art is always fantastic. But in the game industry, 65% of the demand is for programmers who know how to build games. 30% of the demand is for artists who know how to do digital art and build game art. And 5% of the demand is for people who can only do game design. So if you are a person who want to do game design, it's better for you to be a computer scientist or an artist who also can do game design. You know, just having game design as a skill is just a way to have a very difficult time to get a job.
Okay. So can you tell us about how it is that you were able to bring USC's game design program from no program to the #1 program in the world?
Well, the only way that happened is we had to move really fast, and basically when I got here at USC in early 2005, I went and talked to the computer science chairman, and I said, I'm going to build this bachelor's and master's in computer science specialized in games. Was there any particular size of program? And he came back and said, no, you tell us what size. And so I actually wrote the syllabi for 18 new classes, 16 new computer science classes, 2 EE classes, and put together a giant packet with here's how the bachelor's degree goes, here's how the master's degree goes, and I put a cover letter onto it. And at that time, I was just in a temp staff position at the USC Information Science Institute, and I submitted it to the computer science department for approval, and they have this wonderful process in which they print everything. So it's like this massive pack of papers, 100 pages, 120 pages, and they print it out and they hand a copy to each faculty member at the faculty meeting. Well, I can't go to the faculty meeting because I'm not part of the department. So we submitted it, got approved unanimously with no changes by the computer science department. Primarily, they looked at that and said, it must be good, it's big and fat. And so then we had to get it approved by all of the other impacted departments at the school, including the School of Cinema, the dean of the School of Cinema, the dean of the Engineering School, the dean of the Annenberg School, the dean of the College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences, and then it went into the provost's office for 120 days of baking, and then finally got signed. In fact, the dean of engineering who hired me, Max Nikias, by the time this program walked its way through the process, was then the USC provost. And he approved the program basically June 30th, 2006. It had been in the system since, I think, March of 2005. It took over a year. And not one word was changed. So we got it done, and then I turned to the CS chairman and I said, okay, what do I do now? How do I begin? He goes, now you've got to hire people to start all of those classes next semester. I had to go scramble and find industry people willing to teach in the next semester and other people to teach. And I was scrambling and running really quick and worked long days and nights and got it to happen, and started running the year-long advanced games class and got a faculty member from Cinema, Chris Swain, who was superstar, helping that program come up off the ground, and found other people, Scott Easley, who supported what I was doing and became part of the program, and Jose Valletta, who was the senior technical director for Disney Interactive, help, and Artem Kovalov's help, and next thing I know, I had 12 years have gone by and we got a great program.
Wow, amazing.
So you just move faster than people can shoot at you. And then that's the way you do it.
Okay, well, in your illustrious career in game design, is there a product or a project that you are most proud of?
Well, I think the America's Army game is a real game changer for me. Up until before that, I was building a lot of military simulation systems that could play, and I did a lot of research work in how do you build online infrastructures for military simulations. It's basically the same technology for building online infrastructures for games. And I got to serve on a National Research Council committee. In fact, I chaired a National Research Council committee that put out a report called Modeling and Simulation Linking Entertainment and Defense. And it basically said, Department of Defense, you should move entirely to games for your future simulation systems and stop using defense contractors and just get game engine technologies into what you're doing. It will save you a lot of money. And the entire defense enterprise changed to make games their future for simulation. So I actually changed the Department of Defense. Also, I ended up getting asked by the chief scientist of the Army to found and operate a brand new research institute called the USC Institute for Creative Technologies. My role was to write the research plan and operating plan for that institute. I did not get to actually operate and work at that institute. And then the Army gave me a project to build the America's Army game. The Assistant Secretary of Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs, Patrick Henry, was very interested in using game technology to go after new recruits in the Army. And so he sent me a very energetic colonel lieutenant colonel as a program manager, and I put together the plan and built and shipped the game. In fact, I built and shipped and operated the game, including bought the booth for E3 and did all of that. And I had a wonderful time over 4.5 years of that project. And my students who were working with me from the Navy school who went off into the game industry got great jobs. My PhD student who was looking for a faculty job and didn't have a single interview became my executive producer of America's Army, and we shipped 1.0 version of that game. And Mike Capps went on to be president of Epic Games. And then my next executive producer of America's Army, Alex Mayberry, we shipped the game, the 2.0 version of the game, 2.2, 2.4, and then the Army decided it wanted to run the game on its own, and Alex went off to become senior producer for World of Warcraft, lead producer for Diablo 3, and go off and do some wonderful things at Blizzard. So I looked at, and then one of my lead programmers, Christian Buell, he was lead tech designer for the NCAA football game and the Madden football game. I looked at these three guys and said, they're having way more fun than I am. And so that's when I quit the Navy school and came to USC.
So can you give us an idea of the major game companies out there and how attractive students from your program are to them?
Well, Activision has about half their engineers, and the Call of Duty franchise is from this program. And when you go and talk to the director of technology for Activision about 2 years ago, he came to me and said, we used to recruit at Carnegie Mellon, Stanford University, and Berkeley. We can get everybody we want in the city of Los Angeles now, USC, so that's what we're going to do. So Activision gets lots of folks from us. Electronic Arts, a little bit further away, they get people from us. Sony Santa Monica gets lots of technical designers from us. They want people with degrees in computer science who also can do game design. Rockstar San Diego, Grand Theft Auto series, they get people from us. Pretty much 600 different companies hired people from here. Zynga at one time had 75 people from here. Amazon Games, one of the lead architects for Amazon Games is my former mobile games TA. So you go pretty much, you can't go any major game company except for perhaps Ubisoft without finding people from this program.
Wow, that's amazing. So can you describe your academic journey starting from high school, so our students can get an idea of what path you have taken?
You broke up there. Can you repeat that question?
Could you describe your academic journey starting from high school?
Oh, wow. High school. So I went to Chatsworth High School in the San Fernando Valley, and I took Drama 2 play production, theater classes, AP math classes, science fiction literature, filmmaking, and at the same time I worked 30 hours a week in an Italian restaurant. First as a cook, and then as a dishwasher, and then as a cook. And then I went to UC San Diego in La Jolla, and I answered an ad in the newspaper. They were looking for a film editor. And so I showed up, and I got hired by a professor in the chemistry department, Kent Wilson, and he had an undergraduate research group there, 17 undergrads, and he asked me 3 questions. Was I willing to learn to program a computer? Was I willing to learn to program computer graphics? And was I willing to learn how to write grant proposals? This is 1973. And I said yes. And next thing I know, I was making a computer animated film, which just seemed matter of course to me. It was shown at the very first computer animation festival ever in 1974. I shared an office with 2 wonderful guys, a guy named Bill Atkinson, another guy named Bud Tribble. Bill Atkinson was the number 11th employee at Apple Computer, designed the Paint and HyperCard, if you remember those. And Bud Tribble was the manager of the development of the original Macintosh computer and CTO for Next Computer. His wife was CFO for Next, and Bud is what CTO for Apple Computer today. So my undergraduate career was very important. I have a bachelor's degree in bioengineering and a minor in Spanish literature from UC San Diego, La Jolla. I went to UMass Amherst to be part of the Center for Systems Neuroscience in the Department of Computer Science, which was looking at how do you model the brain using computer science systems theory. I was trying to be a student of Michael Arbib. At that time, this is 1976, Michael Arbib's retirement ceremony was yesterday, now that you asked the question. And I switched to Andy Bartow and Victor Lesser. And I was there and got a master's in computer science from there. Then I went to Washington University in St. Louis, and I started in a double PhD program in physiology, biophysics at the medical school, and a PhD in computer science at the engineering school, and I did that for 2.5 years before I dropped out of the medical school part and just did the computer science part so I could have enough time to found a startup company. Finished my PhD, and I went to the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey because it was the school closest to the ocean, and was there. I had intended to be there just 2 years. I was there 21 years. I founded the MOVES Institute, the Modeling Virtual Environments and Simulation Institute. I grew that from nothing to 71 faculty and staff from 12 different departments and $19 million a year in research funding. And then on my 50th birthday, I quit and called up the Dean of Engineering at USC, Max Zacchias, and said, I'm coming to found the games program. And next thing I know, I was at USC founding the games program, and now Max is the USC president. And of course, he always says, you know, I became president because of you coming to USC. No. Max got there on his own. I just say that. He's wonderful. Big supporter.
All right. Well, you know, along the way, were there times when you felt inadequate or that you wanted to quit? in your journey towards where you are now?
Oh, so I've never applied for a job that existed practically. I just kind of like made my own position. So if you make your own position, you have the only option you can do is do it or do not. There is no like other option. I quit the Naval Postgraduate School because I needed to make a big jump. It's sort of like what is it called, the dilemma of Christensen. I'm blanking on this right now. Was it the entrepreneur's dilemma? No, that's not the right term. We'll think of it in a minute. But I looked at what I was doing in the Department of Defense and said, I have many roadblocks to what I'm doing here, and I want to build this program so I can interact with students in directly building games. I needed to move on. And so that was more why I left as opposed to any other reason. Have I ever wanted to quit? I don't know. I'm having a great time. My students give me great joy. The way you should think about professors who love their job is they're like vampires, okay? We drink the blood of the young students, and every morning I get energetic and I go into work and I do great things. And they give me, when they go off and hit their game, and they post on Facebook that because of the USC Games program they got there, I'm happy. That's what makes me happy. All right?
Yeah. Okay, and so let's see. So what advice would you have for current high school students who are interested in a career in game design?
Learn to program a computer, become great at it, become indispensable at it, play every game that you love to the end and understand the design choices in that game, and learn the language of design, and you'll be on your way to a great career. In fact, in high school, you should be building your own games. There are enough free game engines out there now that come with enough tutorials and support that you can go and build your own game with your friends in high school that will get you excited about doing it. In fact, if you experiment with cross-disciplinary collaboration before you go to college, you'll be ready to lead.
And so, typical high school curriculum in terms of computer science teaches, is very Java-centric. What other languages would you suggest high school students learn to prepare?
Well, first of all, if you talk to any of the recruiters in the game industry, you should never, ever, ever admit that you learn Java as a first language. You should learn C++ as a first language. And this is not just the language, this is the language bigotry of the game industry. All right? Because, when my students graduate and they're going to go to Activision, they're going to get a 5-hour programming test in C++.
Wow.
At the end of that programming test, they're going to get an 1.5-hour linear algebra test at a whiteboard. They pass that, they then will get to meet real people who are not in the recruiting domain who actually make games. And if you look like a person who can collaborate with other engineers, away you go. So what's happening with the program here at USC now is we put so many people into the game industry that the Activision knows that anybody who started in the last year there should be part of the recruiting team and come back and get the people 1 year behind them. Who are the good people? Pick them out for us. And so we have strong pull into the game industry that way. You got to come here.
Mm-hmm. Wow, and so it's amazing that as you said, the third test, is actually the people skills test.
Yeah, the people skills. I mean, they want to see, are you someone who is going to be able to work in a big team? Are you going to be someone who doesn't have to be told what to do? Are you going to be someone who's not a whiner and complainer? They pretty much look at those type of dimensions. And if they feel, hey, we could go out to lunch with the guy every day and have a great time, and he's got the technical skills, then you got the job.
All right, and let's switch gears a bit. And are there any particular game titles that you would recommend in terms of exemplifying great game design?
Well, there are all kinds. Okay, and the dimensions are many, and there's sort of two splintered parts of the game industry. There's the ones that make money, the $1 billion, $2 billion games like Call of Duty, and then there's the indie game movement. an indie game movement. You build a game. It's satisfying. It's almost like an art experience. You build in a small team of 4 or 5 people, and a handful of people play that game. And it gets great reviews. So, I mean, one of the best talks I ever saw at the DICE conference, which is the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences conference, was by Genova Chen. Genova Chen is a graduate of this program at USC. He was one of the first students that I paid off an NSF grant. He was actually a cinema interactive media student. And he's also an engineer and an artist, and he ended up getting a 3-game deal from Sony and to create a company called That Game Company. And he put out a game called Journey. And in Journey, 12 months before they were finished with the game, they ran out of money. And so the team, half the team left. And the other half of the team said, well, we got to get jobs, so they got half-time jobs. And they worked half-time to finish Journey. And they finally finished Journey and shipped it to Sony to be in the Sony store. And That Game Company went into bankruptcy. And the game came out and won Best Game of the Year. Okay? So Best Game of the Year. I'm not sure what, and if, how much money they ever got. I'm sure they came out of bankruptcy after that. And his career and all those people's careers are assured, but that's how difficult it is sometimes if you go off the indie direction. You can win Game of the Year, but you might not win the pot of gold. So if your idea is you want to build a game that's got a small audience, there's a hard way to make money. But if you can build something that can go off and be played by millions of people, then you're going to do wonderfully. You'll be very happy. Typical Call of Duty, when it ships, they expect 15 million people to be playing that game in the first 48 hours. That's a lot of folks.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's thank you for all the insight you've given. Is there, I guess, any closing remarks you'd like to give to our audience, our listeners, who are mostly high school students, probably some college students, and sort of the parents too, probably?
Sure. Game industry is great. If you want to build stuff that impacts people's lives and brightens their life and interacts with them, this is the place to be. I highly recommend it. Every one of my students who I've graduated who's gone off and become successful, they're happy. The people who play their games are happy. And I think it's a great career. The thing is, if you get to the end of it and say, you know, I don't want to, if you get to the end of the degree at USC and say, I've got a bachelor's or a master's in computer science specialized in games, and I don't want to go in the game industry, well, Cisco or Amazon or Microsoft or Google will hire you as well. In fact, the interesting thing is Google will pay you more. So the people who go into the game industry from this program do it because they have to. They're compelled to. Their inside body says, got to be there. If you are not there, you're in the computing industry. You'll do great. You'll be in a startup or in a startup.
All right, wonderful. So should we transition to the Q&A time? But before we transition to Q&A time, if you want to take this opportunity to do some trash talking against other programs out there, feel free to do so.
All of the other programs out there are wonderful. I mean, I'm very, very fond of the University of Utah program because Roger Altizer is the bomb. All right, I'll give a shout out for him. He has had the great support of Disney for Avalanche Studios. Unfortunately, Disney shut Avalanche down last year, and Avalanche has been reacquired by somebody, and so he still has his faculty, which is good. So we wish him all the best. All of the other programs, UC Santa Cruz, I'm very fond of them. I watched them go to a very big program. They primarily focus on the indie space, so less on the commercial go-get-a-job space. Other places, I mean, Carnegie Mellon has the Entertainment Technology Center, which when I started this program had a lot of cachet and very big support from Electronic Arts. Electronic Arts still gives them really, really big support. Okay? But I'll say but here, because when I started this program, Electronic Arts was 2 times larger than Activision. Today, Activision is 3 or 4 times larger than Electronic Arts. Because where do they get their people from? USC.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess we'll have to invite some of those people on the show, and you know.
We'll have to get Drew Davidson on here to rebut everything I said. That's okay.
Okay, are we going to transition?
Yeah, let's transition to some questions from our viewers. We actually have one. It's from Henry. He asked, I'm currently a junior in high school right now, and I'm having a bit of a trouble finding my passion. Where exactly in your academic career did you know that you absolutely wanted to do game design?
Oh, wow. So when I was in junior high school, what did I want to be? My father was bringing me satellite pictures from JPL, and pictures of satellites crashing into the moon, and our space program was rocking, and I wanted to be at Caltech and learn how to engineer space systems. That's what I wanted to be. The truth of the matter is, find anything that you're passionate about. And if you're not passionate about what you're doing in school, go find something outside of school that you have a passion for. Take a job in a restaurant. Cook food. You might like cooking food. Who knows? I loved it. In fact, my plan was, if I got drafted, I was going to tell the Army I was a cook. If I didn't get drafted, I was going to go to college and, I started as a math major. And then I liked Spanish literature so much, I almost switched to Spanish literature. And then I started working for that Professor Kent Wilson, and I got interested in neuroscience, so I switched to bioengineering so I could take the 2 neuroscience classes that they offered. And it was just an exploration. So what you do with your bachelor's degree may not be what your career is. In the game space, it has to be. So the answer is go try stuff. If you think you might want to build games, go build some games on your own. Figure it out. Get some friends. Do that. You'll find it. You'll find your passion. You just got to try stuff. And so, the main thing is, I always tell people, don't let your high school or your junior high school break your passion for learning. There's all kinds of cool stuff to learn. When I was 29, I started a business in Tokyo, and I had to learn Japanese. I said, okay, I'll learn Japanese. I'm starting a business now in China. I'm learning Mandarin. Okay? So you don't ever stop learning. I just turned 62. I can swim faster than all of you. All right?
All right, that's great advice actually for all of our high school students. The next question is in regards to the VR world. It's from Han. He asks, currently, games with the most replayability dominates the market, such as LoL, Dota, CSGO. But when you look into VR titles, they are often described as short experiences rather than a full game. What mechanics should VR developers look into to explore and improve this area?
This is a hardware issue, all right? Which is basically nobody wants to wear a head-mounted display for more than 3 or 4 minutes right now. That's a big, heavy piece of electronics that's strapped to your face. If it's a mobile device or it's a Vive or an Oculus system with a giant mat of cables going off to a desktop, which soon will be a floor top if you move the wrong way, right? And so we haven't figured out how to build lightweight, glasses lightweight is what I'm thinking about, head-mounted displays. And so right now everyone's building short experiences because that's all they can get people to do. In fact, I'll tell you, I have one 12-minute experience that Lou tried here, and you get to the end of that 12-minute experience and you're like tired of wearing a head-mounted display. So we're in the science project phase of VR. We're not in the ship it to humans phase. If we come up to Christmas and people are saying we're going to sell 10 million VR helmets, not this year, not next year, the year after. All right.
In terms of VR, do you think the next step is literally equipment upgrade, or is the next step improving the games that are actually developed for VR?
I think the next step is put a little R&D money into content development, and into the hardware. I mean, I think that the hardware, there's a lot of VC money that's gone into hardware. There's a lot of people who are thinking about how to make it lightweight and low cost. The money we really should be spending now is how do we make experiences that people have to be in for a long period of time. Think about this. If you're playing Call of Duty and you're really, really serious about it, you're playing 6 to 7 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are no VR experiences there yet. In 2 years, maybe. So that's a hardware problem.
So is there any, I guess, plan to for VR to integrate actual sensory experiences, the rest of the body, as opposed to just what we see with our eyes? But
oh, absolutely. I mean, the person who was in the office just before your call is talking about putting hybrid EEG devices on people and eye tracking so that we can get your emotional state pumped into your virtual reality experience, such that there are AI characters that have an emotional model such that we can have these interesting stories with emotional content into them that you're going to want to be in. You're going to have a virtual friend who's got emotional states, who's going to be unhappy, they're going to be sad, they're going to be listening to you if you're unhappy and sad, and that's the bad AI character. He's going to say, how do I make you more unhappy and sad? These are the experiences we've got to worry about, but this is going to happen. So the improvement of sensors, all kinds of sensors that figure out what's going on with you, that's going to make a big thing in VR. So my talk in China next week is the VR that we have now is not the VR of the future. Right now we have $600 head-mounted displays, big deal. We don't have the rest of the sensors. We don't have the tracking. We don't have the locomotion that we need to make it a fully great experience so that everyone's going to spend 6 hours, 7 hours a day in it. We need to build.
Wow. So do you think video games, I guess VR video games, would they ever get to the point where you're plugging a USB stick into your brain or something like that? I mean, that degree of interface?
In 1992, I was part of the National Research Council committee that put out the study Virtual Reality Scientific and Technological Challenges. And I was at dinner with Nat Durlock, who is the managing editor for the MIT Press journal Presence. I was senior editor for that journal. And one of the guys sitting at the table his research was, if I cut a nerve in my arm, can I understand the signals that come down the arm such that I could have a computer do something? And it turns out we've done that research since 1992. So we can kind of know some of that. But we're not yet ready to the point where people are going to say, yeah, drill a hole in my head and plug in that USB stick. No, we're not there yet. And also, I'm not sure the government's going to let us do it. And there's going to be riots if we do it, and it makes us smarter. And if it makes us smarter, then everyone will do it. So
because I have friends who study computer security, and their motto is that there's never such thing as complete security. There's just varying degrees of security. And given that people can hack into smart cards nowadays, would you really want something plugged into your brain that's can be hacked into?
Well, computer security is a big ball of wax. He's absolutely right. There is no such thing as computer security. If you are putting something into a computer system that you don't want anyone ever to read, then you should never have put that information into the system. All right? Or else you should learn to operate such that everyone can read everything about you and your life. Why not? I try and do everything open and on Facebook so that, when I look stupid on Facebook, I look stupid in real life, and if they read my email, I look stupid too. Why not look stupid all around? I don't look that stupid, but, think about it. Just be the same all the time. And life is easy. You have to remember what you told this guy and that guy, what's on the web, what's not on the web.
Okay, well, there's one question in particular about video games and violence. And some claim that violent video games increase violent behavior in people. What is your response to that?
Well, there's no research that says video game violence increases violence. In fact, if you look at the historic levels for violence over the last 20 years, violence and homicide rates have gone way, way down. That's because the video game industry has been growing in size in terms of audience and become more accepted. So you can make that argument just as well. So there's lots of people who would like to point at television or rock and roll or video games and say this causes X. And the answer is we don't know that. Without measuring large numbers of people and actually doing real science, then we don't know that. If somebody goes off and makes a strident assumption that video games cause violence, that's just because they haven't done the work. They just don't like video games. People cannot like video games. That's okay. But 99% of the people, young people growing up nowadays, play video games, both male and female. Mm-hmm. And the violence levels for that group of people are way down. Violence, to me, is more attributed to bad economic times and bad economic status for people. People always point at the gold standard for murder in the United States being the city of Chicago. And the city of Chicago has a lot of poor people. And when they, the idle mind is the devil's playground, right? When you got no work and you got no food, between Thanksgiving and Christmas is when all the robberies happen. Because those people don't have money to buy Christmas presents. So I think we got to look elsewhere for causes of violence.
We actually got one more question. This is actually a great question, and we get this question a lot from a lot of our parents. And this is from Christine. She asked, my son plays too much video games. Should I discourage him, or how can I turn this into a positive, more productive way of...
Okay.
Yeah.
So all the studies have shown that if you play a lot of video games, that your fine motor skills are going to dramatically improve. And the medical schools all know this. They call them Nintendo surgeons. So if you don't want your son to become a surgeon, then you should definitely discourage his video game play. If you don't want him to be a sports star, also discourage his video game play. If you want your son to be well-rounded and have a wonderful life, then let him do what he wants. When I built the America's Army game, I had mothers ask me, my son is playing America's Army 7 days a week, 6 hours a day. What is going to become of him? And I said, well, when he turns 18, he's twice as likely to consider a career in the Army as somebody who is not playing the America's Army game. Of course, the parents never wanted to hear that. But the answer is games are part of our interactive media for the young and for the old. People play games all the way up to, I don't know, age 62 so far. So I think you should let your son do it, and you should, if that's your son, and find out is that your son's true passion. Make sure he has enough math and science skills to be able to get into a computer science games program at USC so he can build games. Get him a summer class on building games so he understands what he's doing. Help him with his passion. Don't just say, no, it's bad. Just work with him. Say, he likes that. I got to find out what he likes. I got to go play that. I got to get him involved. All that time you spend with him is going to be loved. He's going to love you forever.
All right. We have another question, actually. This question is from Brian. Is it ever too late to get into game design? As a high school senior without amazing grades, I'm worried I will miss my chance.
Well, get those grades up. That's all I can say. So without amazing grades and all, without some other fantastic thing in your record, it's going to be hard to get into SC. But you might say in the summer between high school and college, or in this last year, find yourself a team of friends and go and try and build a game. See if you really like it. See if you're really good at it. And you're going to find some way to get into it from there. Do something that your passion has you compelled to do. Do something that is part of your long-term career plan in life, and you will make it happen.
And what about the case for somebody who has been studying computer science in college or has finished and realized that now, I'm not interested in general computer science. I want to now get into, video games. And what would you suggest that person do?
Find a place to do it. Find a place to do it. Start and build your own and get into the right college and change career. I started in bioengineering. I switched to computer science. I switched back to physiology, biophysics, and computer science. Tried to do it all at the same time. Realized I could not do it. Stuck with computer science. But every time I made that change, I knew exactly what I was doing. It wasn't that I was cornered. It wasn't that I didn't know where I was going. It's like I knew in my heart I got to be there. So if you know in your heart where you got to be, that's the guide. As long as it's a good thing for society.
Yes, yes. I mean, just hearing you speak, you have all the characteristics of passionate people who pave their way and know what your passion is and you've pursued it. You know what I'm saying? And so
you do that, and your life is great.
Do you have another next question? Okay, so this question I like to ask next is in terms of following up earlier about the parent's complaint that her child is playing video games too much, is there, for those who are addicted to video games, how much responsibility does the video game industry have in curtailing that or suggesting moderation?
Well, I think Nintendo, in both the Wii U and the Nintendo Wii before that, had little parts in the game, in the system, said it would come up and say, "You've been playing for 3 hours straight. You need to take a break." And just a simple hint like that is, I think, sufficient, and people will do that. I think that's going to be there. You have to. I think you have to get a lot of that pretty automatically, which means it has to be at a systems level, and it also has to be something that is understanding for you. I think one of the best games recently has been Pokemon Go, and I got to work with John Hankey and Khaled Abdelrahman before Pokemon Go came out. We built a prototype client and authoring tool for a Pokemon Go-like game for the Google Scientific Labs for them, and that game gets you out walking around and interacting with other people out in the real world. I love that. That's a great thing for people. Talk to John Hankey. He knows how to get people out.
And I mean, is there any, I guess, do you see any development or interest in developing in terms of video games that encourage people to do maybe philanthropic work? You just says you interact with people, win maybe brownie points, for every kind of act that you do things like that.
There's a number of people who I've talked to over the years who said we're going to build a game, and that game goes out and helps humanity. And the thing is there has not investment money in there. So if they can go and build that, it's going to be like an indie game, and it may be popular with small numbers of people, meaning small numbers under 100,000 people. But you never know. Maybe it will change some people's lives. It will change something. Or the answer will be that the people who build the game will learn why they didn't succeed and come up with a better plan for how to succeed. Right? So you look at the many amazingly successful charities that are out there and watch them. I mean, I always think of Habitat for Humanity, which is building homes in your spare time. And I've always thought that was an absolutely fantastic place to be and one of the best charities ever. So I think, build something in that dimension, but try and find the attention and the funding of someone who can provide you marketing money so that you can actually get people doing it and changing the world.
So in terms of somebody being interested in developing an educational game, like for inner city children or for children in third world countries, is there a hardware platform that you think would be best for that, like something works on iPad or anything with the internet connection?
Okay, there's a former student of mine who has founded a company called the School of Games. The idea is to build mobile educational games for poor children in India and basically make it run on mobile phones, low-cost mobile phones, such that kids in India can learn to read, can learn math, and can learn science from this very poor mobile device that they all have. Spectacular guy. Spectacular plan. He's actually at a company, Zynga, and he is, I think, principal engineer for analytics for Zynga. He wants to go change India. And of all the people I know who could do this, he has the game industry experience to make this happen.